I disagree with the fact that we don't have able people in our particular era. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. is one and
I
by
didn't say
himself. Fannie Lou
unable.
Hamer.
I'm saying people willing to risk it all. There's a
I'm
lot of
saying
check chasing. There's
there's
a
a
lot
lot
of
of that.
check
There was a lot of
chasing.
that. Wait a minute. There was a lot of that going on at the times you're mentioning.
But it
Every
wasn't the
era
people that
in
I
Black
named.
America
The people that
has
I
faced
named
that.
weren't chasing the checks. They were rolling up their sleeves, and this is why they got
There were people chasing
unpopular.
checks during that time.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
The first time I met you, you were on tour with Cornell West and Tavis Smiley. This was in the early aughts, I think, early 2000s. You guys were doing a State of Our Union and talking about how we could be better. That was 20 plus years ago. Where are we right now? And how do we get to a place where we can all breathe again, breathe comfortably?
Well, my pastor used to tell me we've already come through what we've come to. So let's not pretend that we have not been at this kind of juncture, not precisely and exactly, because we haven't had a president who was quite as, subversive of the American democracy and the very infrastructure, institutionally speaking, um, of, what supports him as a president. And we didn't think that the traitor to those traditions would occupy the highest office in the land. But we have been in a place where presidents and other leaders have really undermined the capacity of ordinary citizens to be able to enjoy the fruits of democracy and to argue within the context of those institutions for greater realization of democracy, freedom, and justice. So, been there, and we are here again. So, it means we shouldn't panic, and that Black people, above all others, I would argue, have endured this kind of stuff before. Because for me, racism is a dry run for fascism. For me, white supremacy is a predictor of autocracy. And what I mean by that, everything we're worried about in a fascist, dictatorial, autocratic, oligarchic, and whatever words we want to put out there, arrangement has already been presaged in how they treat Black folk, denying us the right to vote, making us pay taxes without equal representation, the failure to acknowledge our humanity before the courts, the legal denial of our voice being represented. So when you look at what fascism is about, that's already been rehearsed within African American culture. And despite those ruinous limits, those lethal limits that have been arbitrarily been imposed upon us, we were able to survive. So first of all, don't give up hope. And the great thinker Howard Thurman said, don't reduce your dreams to the level of the event, which is your immediate experience. This thing you're confronting now is not going to exhaust the capacity that you have as a human being or we as a people, our capacity to overcome this. He said, you can make a choice. You can be a prisoner of the event you confront, or you can be a prisoner of hope. I choose to be a prisoner of hope, and Black people have chosen to be prisoners of hope. That ain't optimism. That ain't thin-skinned belief that, oh, the truth of our culture will somehow be abracadabra turned around. No, it means we face the hard reality that we're living in vicious times. We're living in a time when Afrikaners, many of whom are racist, or at least some of them, coming to this country because of ostensible genocide to which they are
All right.
subject, while the
Are we?
real genocide is being
Okay.
denied. So I'm
Are
saying
we?
we're living in that time. So I think what we continue to do is to call upon those same resources that got us where we are today. Sorry, I just want to
Okay.
finish that
Yeah.
thought.
No. I mean, but even saying some, I feel like some Africa, they are coming here because they don't like what's happening in South Africa.
Absolutely.
And they feel that somehow the equality, having to give up land or things, and then getting paid for the land that you took, your ancestors took, is oppression to them. They got on a plane to come here because they like the oppression. So I'm going to say all 59 of them, including those babies, are racist. I don't know
what
why,
I'm talking about,
why we're quibbling over that.
I'm not quibbling over it. I'm making a point. The point I was making that was just news. If you saw the news today, where one or two particular Afrikaners who were making vehemently denunciatory statements about Jews in particular and about them being a dangerous people. So I had them in mind. I don't have any argument or a problem with saying that the Afrikaners who have come here are. I didn't say I was surprised. I'm making. No,
you said
comment.
some of them might. You said some of them might not be. Some of them are racist.
No, I said
all of them.
No, I said some of them who have made explicit statements. I'm not suggesting that the Afrikaners who have come here, although I haven't interviewed all 50 of them and know what they are and what their story is, we do know that, as you've said, that their resentment about having to share resources that were undemocratically acquired, that were acquired through violence, desperation, death, and blood, now must be reapportioned. Yes, they got a problem. So they are attracted to a president who is a white nationalist. At least he promotes that in a very serious and profound fashion, with white supremacy being its undergirding factor, and a guy, Stephen Miller, working for him, who is an explicit white supremacist. So I'm not, ain't nobody white.
Okay.
You ain't got to parse words. That's the whole context.
I just want to have a conversation that's rooted in our liberation. And I think, I
understand.
I don't want to get derailed by,
because I'm rooted in liberation too. Well, we might be both rooted. Wait, let me finish. We might be both rooted in liberation, but have a different means to achieve that end. That doesn't
so how do we know? You said
what people are about.
But I think at this point,
you ain't God. I'm just saying, you're a great woman, Karen Hunter, but your way ain't the only way.
You
ain't Frank Sinatra.
Oh
you can't. Look. Let me say this. Howard Thurman said.
Where's this coming from?
Wait a minute, because you up here trying to parse like I'm trying to say. They're not all racist. There's some who might be racist. I'm saying I already acknowledge that it's rooted in white supremacy.
Jesus, take the wheel. I rebuke the energy that is not of you from this conversation.
Oh Lord,
in the name of Jesus.
Please do that. As an ordained Baptist preacher for 45 years, I can amen that.
Okay, all right. Let's touch.
Let me get that mirror for you.
Because here's the thing, put the mirror on. I look in it every day, and I don't forget what my face looks like when I walk away from it. So at the end of this thing that we're on, we're going to have to agree on some things, right? And if we can't agree that water is wet, and there's a different way to look at water, I'm saying right now we're in crisis. This is triage.
No doubt, no question.
No, if you're having frostbite, your body says we don't need these toes, so we can't. And I feel like, because for the last 50 years, we've been kind of in this bubble. We had Obama. There's been these things. We're not in those times. And we don't have a Howard Thurman. We don't have an MLK. We don't have a Malcolm X. We don't got a Fannie Lou Hamer. We don't have an Ella Baker. We don't have an A. Philip Randolph. We don't have that kind of leadership that even people can trust in this moment, which is why it's important for people who are actually rolling up the sleeves and doing the work to be beyond reproach as it relates to.
I disagree with that. Let me tell you why I disagree with that.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. Not your premise. I'm saying I disagree with the fact that we don't have able people in our particular era. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. is one.
I didn't say unable. I'm saying people willing to risk it all. There's a lot of check chasing.
There's a lot of that. There was a lot of that. Wait a minute. There was a lot of that going on at the times you're mentioning.
But it wasn't the people that
I
named.
America has,
the people that I named
that.
weren't chasing the checks. They were rolling up their sleeves, and this is why they got.
There were people chasing checks during that time. Read your history. Yeah, you know that's true.
Yes, but not any that I mentioned. Not any that I mentioned.
Oh, no, of course not. But that's like you're picking the cream of the cream. And we got the cream of the cream right now. I would say in our era, your particular program is an important voice piece for a radically, Black and Black-centered consciousness that really challenges the forces of white supremacy or Black bourgeois capitulation to these forces. So
actually, that's not what we do. Actually, that's not. Let me just correct you. This is not what we do here, and this is not me. The reason why Urban View is what it is because of the people that listen, and we probably have the largest gathering of folks
who they listening to.
They're listening to all of us.
Who's the host of the show?
I'm not a host. I'm a conduit of
Whatever,
information
dude.
and
You being
voices.
technical now. Come on, stop it. You the
Okay.
host of the show, Karen. So I'm
Yes.
saying I'm trying to give you love, and you gonna argue with me about that. All
Okay.
right,
I
cool.
am gonna. I love you. That's an action word. Okay, so let me center myself because you are. Let me just say that when you ask me in this space, I don't necessarily, I don't have a script that I go by. I want to have a conversation with somebody who's read a lot, who's done a lot, who's been in
Right.
them streets. I'm trying to center this thing. I was trying to apologize for not inviting you on, and I want to get into some solutions. That's what I want to
Sure.
do. That's what I want to
Let's
do.
do it.
Okay,
I'm
and
just, but look, just very briefly, what I'm saying when I said I disagree with you, this is what I meant. I'm saying that every generation produces the necessary figures and forces that are capable of organizing the energy of democracy and resistance. That's all I was trying to say. So that we don't have Michael Jordan, but we got LeBron James. We don't have, right? You see what I'm saying? We don't.
no,
We
no,
have a
that's a
reverend.
bad comparison. Oh my God, I think we would not agree
I'm
on much of
saying I didn't
anything.
say he was Jordan, but
No,
he's got an energy. He's the most famous ball player of his time. And I'm just saying
uh,
that as the most famous ball player of his time, he ain't got to be Jordan in order to be himself. And I'm just
correct.
saying that there are people in our time who are doing tremendous things. I tried to start with you, but you're okay. That's not the case. I think there are many leaders, thinkers, and political activists who are trying to enliven our own consciousness and represent us in ways that are progressive. That's all I was trying to
Okay.
say.
All right. So let me ask you, do you think cable news is productive in this time?
I mean, it can be and it can't be. It's often undermining of a more complicated and nuanced discussion. If you got some shows that at least allow people to talk, think out loud, it could be helpful. But like social media,
Where is that? Where is that
it's
existing though? This is
deeply.
what I'm saying. So if cable news looks like WWE with thinkers and scholars and
Mm,
miscreants like Scott Jennings who don't know any, or
mhm,
Mr.
mhm.
Wonderful who why do you keep putting people in our faces that are not even at the level of the folk on the panel that you had to sit next to a Nancy Mason, have a discussion,
Right.
you and Charles Blow is the problem with the thing. So why do we go
Keith
on these
Boykin. Yeah.
Keith Boykin, I'm
But
sorry,
that's all
Keith
right. That's all
Boykin.
right. I know what you meant.
Yeah.
Look, but at the same time, you have a person like a woman who has a PhD from Oxford in politics who had a daily show for a while and now is on every Monday. Whether
Who?
one agrees, Rachel Maddow,
Oh
right?
yeah, but she's a Rhodes Scholar who does she's one of the few that does very good research, got like a team
Yes.
of 20 people, but
Yes.
she's not doing the back and forth, but she's not doing that kind of panel discussion.
Absolutely.
She's not doing that. So yeah,
Right. Right. Right.
she is
But she's
one
on
of
cable
the very
news,
few.
and you
Yeah,
asked me
she
for an
is.
example. I'm giving an
Yeah,
example
that's a
on
good
cable news.
example. That is a very good example. I
Okay.
wish there were more. Everyone should be, because I feel like instead of chasing the ratings,
Hmm.
we should be doing what they used to do before. I don't know,
And I
we only
love
had
Joy
to.
Reid when she was on. I thought she broke stuff down and gave us some serious things that we need
Yes,
to contemplate. I liked Miss Cross. I think she was highly intelligent,
yes, yes, she was.
understanding the nature
She
of what
is.
was going on. And
Yep.
so, those are people who burst through, I think, in a very
Yeah.
powerful way.
And then those last two were fired. So that says
Hmm.
something about whether or not the
Absolutely.
system can appreciate that
Absolutely.
kind of scholarship in a black body. So then
Right.
I'm saying when we
Right.
go on these places, and actually really having a conversation about how we move forward. And I think
Hmm.
yes, it is my opinion, but my opinion I think is right in this time. And if we, at some point we're going to have to agree on something like how we move to win. And if we keep giving them our best and brightest in these diminished situations where we're being called out boy and all this other stuff,
Fair enough.
we're not
Fair
winning.
enough. Fair enough.
That's all I'm
Fair enough.
saying.
Fair
And
enough. No,
that's
fair
all.
enough. And
Okay.
I think that what we continue to do, right? The pendulum shifts, hopefully swings back the other way. But in the meantime, you're absolutely right in terms of the toxic character of some of this clickbait stuff that we do, whether it's on the internet, whether it's on social media, whether it's on cable news, that's for the entertainment. I think Neil Postman wrote a book decades ago, amusing ourselves to death. And this
Yes.
is what's happening in a very serious fashion. So I don't have any
But
doubts
that's
about that. But again,
that's why
to
that's why
risk praising your show, I know you're not on cable,
no
but you are a media outlet that allows
absolutely.
people to amplify their voices and think seriously about critical issues.
I completely agree with you. And as a matter of fact, we have more listeners than they have on MSNBC or CNN, which
That's
is,
great.
funny to me that people run to those places and not here. So I'm grateful that you came in today. But I'm also like looking at how we move forward with our power, right? So we're showing our dollars with Target and Costco on opposite, we're supporting Costco, not supporting this one is having an impact, right? And I think now we have to be pristine, right? Because this time calls for no lukewarmness. This is what I'm really talking about, Michael. I'm speaking your language right now. No lukewarmness, or we'll be spat out. We have to be very hot or cold in this time.
No doubt. You got to be definite. You got to be focused. You got to be precise, and you got to be committed. There's no question about that. Again, my point is, look, there are multiple ways in which to arrive at the very goal that you and I would share. And I'm saying that there is unquestionably in this day and time when so many institutions are capitulating, caving in, surrendering. I teach at a university. And so we know that the university scene is being pelted by MAGA like white supremacist, right wing, conservative values that try to deny us the legitimacy of our voices, the shaping of our
So
minds.
what are you doing in that?
I'm teaching classes. Others are teaching
Are
classes.
you
We're
threatened?
speaking
Do you
out
feel
against it.
threatened? Is this, are you concerned about your ability
I've
to be
been
able to stay
look,
there?
since I've been teaching and been a public intellectual, I get threats all the time. I've been threatened way before now.
No, I mean
So
from the
yeah,
administration, as
not
Columbia
from my
did the knee.
administration, not at
Okay.
Vanderbilt. Let me very much say that our chancellor and the administration certainly supports free speech, and in this day and age, that's a heroic commitment because so many other institutions are wavering or are and floundering and giving into the forces that would seek to undermine us. So no, I feel quite free and liberated to be able to speak my piece and to talk my truth without fear of a reprisal at my institution.
Okay. Can we take a call or two?
Sure.
Okay. Let's go to Willie in Florida. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. Hi, Willie. You're on with Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Willie in Florida. Come on, Willie.
You mean Lloyd?
Oh, I don't know. It says Willie. If it's
I'm
Lloyd,
Lloyd in Naples, Florida. Yes.
Okay. Apologies to you, Lloyd in Naples. Welcome.
Yes, no problem. I just want to say thank you, Ms. Hunter, for everything you're doing. And believe it or not, you have a valid point in what you're saying. And it's good to hear you and Dyson have that debate. But at the end of the day, I just want to say this to you. There are three things to me as a black male that affect the black community, and that would be the black police officers, the national, I think it's the Congressional Black Caucus, and the black pastors. Now, in that entity, what I mean is like the black police officers, they see a lot of things that go on within the streets of all states, and they stay silent, a lot of them. They don't even break their code of silence. They don't speak out. And those that do try to speak out, they're fired or ostracized, right? Mm-hmm. Then the black pastors have a great deal of influence in the black communities, and I believe that black nationalism should be mandatory, at least in the black churches. The Congressional Black Caucus, I believe, have been asleep for almost their entire existence. And sadly to say that you have these black politicians that really do not go out and meet with their people until it's time to vote. So I really wish, because you hit on some valid points about Donald Trump and his administration and Mr. Miller and his racism, and you are right about those 50 racist South Africans, and I agree with you because anything from South Africa that's white to me is racist because they stole those people's land just like they stole us and brought us here, and then some of us were already here. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to put that on the map that look at what happens in the black community, and you have black police officers on the street silent, allowing it to happen to their own people. I'm not saying that they're not bad black children. You have some, but not all. And I think that we get stereotyped a lot. And as a black male growing up in Florida, where it's truly racist with a racist governor and a racist administration, I don't believe that the Department of Education should have been dismantled. Right now, I'm going to school for law. And, I'm trying to figure out where the next grant's going to come from because they're telling us now that even if you have straight A's, you're going to have a problem with Donald Trump and his administration.
That's right. Doctors, too. Black doctors. Saw a story about black doctors getting getting scholarship and grants.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're in a time. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, what do you say?
Police, politicians, pastors. Look, there's no question about police. I've spoken for the National Organization of Blacks in Law Enforcement, and I was like, "Y'all sure y'all want me to come?" You issued an invitation to me, and given books that I've written, "The Tears We Cannot Stop," and "A Long Time Coming," where I am just relentless in the critique of the white supremacy that comes through the baton and the black versus blue versus black versus white cops and black cops and so on. So I've written extensively about that, and to my surprise there were police people who were there who were articulating a far different viewpoint, one that was surprising to me. So I had to be, open minded about saying, "Well, I ain't think none of y'all were thinking this way," because I'm like the caller. I'm saying, what is the manifestation of your commitment to trying to make a difference? I ran into the woman who was the police chief now in Memphis, who immediately fired those cops who savaged and abused Tyree Nichols and killed him and murdered him. She didn't wait, till a report came out and so on and so forth. Now that's one small drop. I absolutely admit that, but there are some who have been conscientized in a way that was surprising to me that I had to acknowledge. But the larger point about police forces, which means they override individual autonomous beliefs of any particular chief, although chiefs make a difference in terms of setting policy for what happens in that particular arena or precinct or city. So it's absolutely right to be critical. Many of them shared some of the critiques that I put forward, that our caller would put forward. And so finding ways, and I even said, why are you sending cops to London to try to figure out how, for instance, you can adjudicate a case without violence when you got black and brown cops, many of whom, not all, many of whom handle these escalating situations by de-escalating them because they come from these same neighborhoods. So I agree with the caller absolutely in terms of the viciousness of the systemic problems, but we've got to continue to wrestle with that because the police ain't going nowhere. We can talk about defunding them and eradicating them. And look, I'm all for whatever can remove the menace and the threat of those police from our neighborhoods. But until such time, we got to figure out ways to negotiate. Number two, when you talk about politicians, I'm saying, do you know Jasmine Crockett? Do you know Maxine Waters? Do we know, Al Green? Do we know? So I'm saying that to have a blanket assessment of the people who are our representatives. I know most of them, and I think most of them are decent, hardworking people who love black people, who are concerned about what's going on in our neighborhoods. Sister Joyce out of Ohio. When I talk to these people, when I go to their meetings, when I look at the legislation that they are providing, they are hardly unawake. They are hardly indifferent to the conditions, the plight and predicament of black people. And some of them have been quite vocal in amplifying the very beliefs that I think our caller would agree with. And then thirdly, the pastors. Well, look, I'm an ordained Baptist minister for more than 45 years. So I have been harsh and critical of some of the stuff going on in black churches, especially among my black Baptist brethren and the like. And there's no question that we got to be harsh and critical. But there have been people like the Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes. When you think about, the Reverend Dr. Otis Moss, when you think about Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart, when you think about Reverend Dr. Carolyn Knight. Now, you can say that I'm naming names and the majority are not like that. You're absolutely right. But the majority has never been, quote, woke in our tradition. The majority of people who have changed this nation have been the few who are the remnant, right? Even during King's time and before that with A. Philip Randolph or Mary McLeod Bethune, it's only a small percentage of black people who were involved. Even the civil rights movement, do the numbers, my friend. Most black people were not directly involved. Now, Black people did what they could. If I can't be involved because I'm going to get fired because I'm a member of the NAACP, I'm going to cook you a meal. I'm going to drive the cars that'll get you where you're going. I'm going to provide you housing. So I'm not suggesting that Black people were not critical and central to the evolution of our social justice fight. But those on the front line have been few and far between. I remember asking Jesse Jackson once, I said, how did you at 26 years old and meeting Dr. King for the first time, I think in Selma, how did you get that close and started working for him and became a major figure within his organization? He said, homeboy, the line wasn't long to go die with Dr. King or the movement, because those were dangerous times. So when you think about SNCC, when you think about Ella Baker, when you think about Robert Moses, when you think about Septima Clark, when you think about Joanne Robinson, when you think about Diane Nash, right? These are people who were willing to sacrifice their lives because the mass majority of Black people were disinclined to do so, afraid to do so, not in position to do so, and the like. In 1965, when Alex Haley is interviewing Martin Luther King Jr. in Playboy magazine, he's asking, why is it that most Negroes, as we were then called, are not involved in the movement? Because it's always been that remnant that has changed. Now, most Black people weren't involved in the movement, but all Black people benefited from that movement. And of course, Reverend Al Sharpton right there in New York City, on the front line politically and in terms of theologically, representing a powerful intervention in the name of our religious truths and traditions. So I take your critiques quite seriously on all levels, because they all need to be critiqued. But I think there are good people doing good things at the same time.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will